All right, today I'm going to do something a little bit different. So usually I'll talk to you about like technology or AI or whatever, right? Um, but today I'm going to talk to you about tarot cards. That's right, these guys right here. Okay, so, but with a twist still. We're going to talk about using tarot for the purposes of business psychology. All right, now hear me out. Usually, tarot cards are used in kind of like a woo type of situation, right? Like where we're gonna look at the future and see, like, oh, when are you gonna get a girlfriend, or oh, you're gonna win the lottery, or whatever, right? And that's fun. Don't get me wrong, but there are actually some quite practical uses to these things when you look at it in the sense of psychology. Okay, both personal psychology and in this case, business psychology. And now, to give you sort of an example of like how this works, I want you to think of something called a Rorschach test. Okay, so if you're not familiar with a Rorschach test is basically something where they take a bunch of pieces of paper and they dump a bunch of ink in the middle of them, and they fold them in half, right? And then they show you this like weird picture of an ink blot, right? It's also called an ink blot test. And then you're supposed to say what you think it looks like. And what you think it looks like is based on your perception of that image, right? And that has to do with your own personal psychology. Now, tarot cards act very much in the same way if you use them as a type of Rorschach test, where you are looking at the cards that have been laid out based on the question that you're asking, and then you are going to have an interpretation that's based on your own perception of what these cards mean to your story. And because the cards, they cover these very grounded sort of human archetypes and very universal human stories that have existed for a long, long time and continue to exist today, they actually provide some relatively useful insight when used for that function, right? So we're going to go over a few sort of key points that you need to understand about tarot cards in order to get this benefit, right? So one of the things that you have to know is that they're divided into different groups, okay? So there are first two significant groups that you need to be aware of. First group is called the major arcana, and then the second group is the minor arcana, okay? Now, the minor arcana will be more familiar to you if you've ever used a traditional deck of playing cards. That's kind of what the minor arcana are like, right? Only instead of clubs, hearts, spades, and diamonds, we have swords, cups, coins, or pentacles, and wands, okay? And so I'm going to show you some examples of this here in a second. And then the fifth suit, if you will, called the major arcana, they follow a different kind of a path still. Okay. Now here, I'm just going to organize a few of these cards into some groups. Okay, make sure that got ones that are suitable. I think that this should be pretty good here. Maybe a few more. And you'll see what I mean in a second when we go through some of these, right? Like how they have very, very clear messaging and clear imagery. Okay, so let's start with the major arcana, okay? So we're going to start with the magician, okay? So this is the magician card. So the magician card, as you can see, it's got a guy here, and he is a magician. He is a guy who can make things happen, okay? He's a guy who can manifest things into existence. He is a master of the wands, which you can see in his hand, cups, the coins, and the swords, okay? He's surrounded by flowers, and he has a yellow background, okay? These all have meanings. So yellow is a very positive meaning. He has the infinity sign over his head. That's limitless, right? And he's also pointing above and below, which if you're familiar with Hermeticism, as above, so below, right? So you could interpret this from a business perspective as, bringing something into existence, manifesting something into existence, taking skills that you have in business and applying them to create something, to make something happen. And depending on where you lay the card in your spread, or what kind of question you're asking, this could be you, or this could be someone else, or this could be, a system or some part of your business in general, right? But that's the idea behind it, is bringing something into existence, okay? And next we've got the Hierophant, okay? So the Hierophant represents like tradition and authority still, right? So this could be something like where in business you are working with people who are very stuck in their ways, set in their ways, right? They're very traditional, very conservative, right? They want to do it the old way. That's always been the way to do things, right? And that can be sometimes a difficult thing to work with, right? Or that could be you. Maybe you are that person still, and you're not wanting to deal with the young whippersnappers or something like that, right? Anyways, let's continue on. So next we've got the Hermit, okay? So the Hermit is the man on the mountain. He's isolated, right? But you can see he's got a big stick, but he's also got a lantern with a star in it if you look very closely, right? So that maybe there can be some things to said where maybe you've been isolating yourself too much and you need to get feedback from other people, or you need to launch something and get feedback from your users. You can only be a hermit and work on developing a product or something for so long, and you need to get that out there, right? You need to take all this wisdom that you've gained in isolation and come down from the mountain, so to speak, and share that wisdom, right? All right, next one, we've got Strength, okay? Strength card. So you can see this lady, she's also got that infinity sign over her head, and she's got the yellow background as well. So those are very positive things, lack of limits, right? Limitlessness. And what is she doing? She is opening a lion's mouth, right? And she looks very calm while doing so still. So this is kind of like an achieving the impossible, or maybe like the thing that you think is impossible, be it in your business, or some kind of situation like that. Maybe it's going to be a lot easier than you think, right? Maybe you're making a mountain out of a molehill, sort of thing, right? So, we've got another one called the Hanged Man still. So you can see he is hanging himself upside down to gain a new perspective, right? So getting a new perspective on something, that can be really useful, really important in business, right? So you can see he's hanging upside down. He's got that sort of aura around his head. It's kind of like an enlightenment type of thing. So, gaining that new perspective by looking at things from a different way can really help you, become kind of enlightened about a subject, right? Okay, next we've got the Chariot. Okay, so the Chariot is a sign of success still. Now, basically, you've got this guy. He has two sort of sphinxy looking cat people who are driving him forward there. And he's covered in armor. He's outside the gates of the city. Also a yellow background with a sense of positivity. This is a sign of like success, of forward movement. Of really taking things forward there, bull by the horns type of situation, right? So those are some examples of the major arcana, okay? They're standalone cards, but also when you look at them in a series, because they are numbered, right? So you can see this one has the Roman numeral for 8 above it, right? They do tell a story when they're all put together, okay? But that would require a bit longer of a video than what we're going to start off with today. So then we're going to look at some of the other ones. So let's get into swords. So swords are the mental suite, right? So this is basically stuff that has to do with your thinking, right? So if we're looking at the Queen of Swords, right, should be making good decisions, thinking clearly, right, at a high level, okay? We could also look at the Ace of Swords. So aces are all about new beginnings, right? So this could be a new idea, or thinking about something in a new way, Then let's move on to the Cups, okay? So we'll have the Ace of Cups. Cups, again, are emotional cards, right? Has to do with your emotions. If you think emotions don't have anything to do with business, you're wrong. Obviously, emotions play all kinds of parts in businesses. Happens all the time. you ever had an angry customer or a fight with a co-founder or any number of these types of things still. Okay, so emotions absolutely play into business. This could be an emotional fresh start, right? Or a new beginning from an emotional perspective. So okay, and we got the Ten of Cups. So the Ten of Cups, this is actually the end, so the beginning of the end of the series, right? It goes 1 to 10, just the same way like in playing cards still. So the Ten of Cups is like, hey, that's the happy ending. That's the super ultimate joy. You've got the happy family, right? So this could be, from a business perspective, just like, hooray. Like, this could be your exit or like your best year of sales ever or, a successful product launch or something like that. Very good stuff, okay? Then we've got the Ace of Pentacles, right? Or coins, as you wish. So this represents the material world, things you can touch, taste, smell, see, and hear, right? This has to do with money, with resources, okay? So this would be a fresh start or something new in terms of the material and tangible things, okay? Maybe you have new funding. Maybe you have, something, a new line of credit or whatever, right? And we got the King of Pentacles, right? So this is a guy who is very good with his money. He's holding on to it nicely. He's draped in luxurious fabric that is quite ornate, and he's very chilling still, okay? So that could be dealing with a person or embodying the persona of this guy, the King of Pentacles. Okay, another good one here is the Four of Pentacles. Okay, so this one is about kind of like clutching onto things too tightly. This could be or being stingy with resources still, and having that corrupt sort of your perception still. So you can see he has a coin covering his head, so maybe preventing him from thinking clearly. As a coin covering his heart, preventing him from feeling clearly, like being in touch with his emotions properly, or it's affecting his emotions somehow. And you can see maybe he's not grounded, right? Because he's got those coins between his feet and the ground, right? So he's not connected there, okay? All right, and then let's look at the Suit of Wands, okay? So let's take a look at the Queen of Wands, okay? So the Queen of Wands, this is kind of like an entrepreneurial type who is basically someone who does not care what you think. She's going to do her own thing. She has a black cat. She doesn't care that some people think it's unlucky. She likes it. She's optimistic. She's got that sunflower there, and she's very calm, cool, collected, and well on her way. And this could be, again, you showing up as like someone else or yourself embodying those traits. Yeah, the Eight of Wands, that's like a rapid action, taking rapid action. Still, you can see the wands are flying through the air, right? This could be you taking action or something else happening quickly. Then you've got the Nine of Wands too. And this is kind of like the wounded warrior card still, where, he's achieved some level of success. He's gathered all of these wands, but at a certain cost, right? He's banged up, he's bandaged, he is he's been out to battle to get those wands still, right? Now, there are many, many more cards. There are 76 cards in total in the deck. And also it has a lot to do with how they're spread out. But I hope this gives you kind of a rough idea of where this could go. And especially if you've never even had a look at these things before, I would absolutely consider I would suggest rather that you consider taking a look at a deck of cards, a deck of tarot cards, look through what the meanings are, and you'll be able to start to see how this can reflect some of your own personal issues and business issues as well. All right, that's all.